All right, so you're gearing up for a freight transport dispatcher interview, which basically means you're about to step into a role that really is the backbone of how things get where they need to go. And we've got a stack of RoleCatcher resources to help you absolutely nail this interview.
Yeah, think of it like a backstage pass to the whole interview process.
Exactly. We're going to tackle those common interview questions that you'll find in the RoleCatcher Interview Guide, sprinkle in some insider career tips from their career guide, and even touch on how AI can give you an edge in this whole process. But first things first, let's just decode exactly what a freight transport dispatcher even does. It's more than just telling trucks where to go, right?
Oh, way more. You're basically air traffic control, but for the world of trucks and cargo. And the career guide actually puts it perfectly. They say that freight transport dispatchers are the maestros of movement. They're the ones making sure that all those goods get to where they need to be on time efficiently, and all while staying within those really important regulations.
So you're juggling deadlines, customer needs, carrier availability. Sounds like a pretty high-pressure gig.
It definitely keeps you on your toes. That's why being prepared for those interview questions is so important.
Speaking of those questions, let's dive into a big one right off the bat. Walk me through your experience in logistics. Now, what if you're fresh out of college, zero direct experience? What do?
Don't sweat it. Even without direct experience in the field, you can totally highlight those transferable skills. Think back to projects, part-time jobs, volunteer work, anything where you had to organize, problem solve, or coordinate people.
So if I organized a school fundraiser or even planned a killer road trip with friends, that counts.
Absolutely. It's all about showing the interviewer how your experiences, even if they seem unrelated, actually demonstrate the skills needed for this role.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, how about this one? How do you prioritize shipments and ensure timely delivery? I mean, that sounds like a recipe for stress.
It can be, for sure. This is where the STAR method comes in handy. Situation, task, action, result.
So instead of just saying, I'm good at prioritizing, you would tell a story about a time that you successfully juggled multiple priorities.
Exactly. So let's say you're asked about prioritizing shipments. Think of a time when you were absolutely swamped. Maybe 5 urgent deliveries, a truck breaks down. You had to reroute everything while keeping the clients in the loop. Using that STAR method, walk them through how you tackled that chaos.
So you're showing them you can handle the pressure, you can make decisions, you get things done. All essential for a dispatcher. Okay, next up. How do you handle unexpected delays or disruptions? Because in the world of freight transport, things rarely go perfectly right.
Right, things happen. Traffic jams, bad weather, equipment breakdowns, you name it.
So how do you convince the interviewer that you're not going to melt down when things go sideways?
This is where you want to highlight that proactive mindset and your ability to just think on your feet. Think about specific tools or strategies you'd use, like GPS tracking, to monitor those situations, finding alternative routes, maybe even negotiating with carriers to kind of minimize that impact.
So it's about having a plan and showing them you can adapt. What about communication? That seems pretty crucial here.
Absolutely. You need to keep everyone in the loop, drivers, clients, all parties involved, and provide clear and timely updates. That's a major part of handling those disruptions effectively.
So it's not just about solving the problem, it's about managing the communication around it. Okay, on to another question. How do you ensure compliance with regulations and safety standards? I mean, safety is huge in this industry.
It is. Interviewers want to know that you're serious about it. This is where you showcase your knowledge of the industry. Mention specific regulations like DOT regulations. Those cover everything from vehicle maintenance to driver qualifications. And HOS requirements, those hours of service requirements that limit how long those drivers can actually be on the road.
So you're not just saying safety's important, you're dropping some specific knowledge to show them you're in the know. What about actually staying compliant, though?
Go a step further and describe your system. Maybe you use a checklist for verifying those driver qualifications, a process for tracking vehicle maintenance, or a way to monitor those driver hours.
So you're painting a picture of someone organized, meticulous, and someone who truly puts safety first. Music to a hiring manager's ears. By the way, speaking of music to their ears, I've got to ask about the job market. With online shopping booming, it seems like skilled dispatchers would be in high demand.
You're spot on. The career guide even points out that the rise of e-commerce means more demand for skilled dispatchers. Job security is definitely a plus for this role.
That's great to hear. Now, this might sound like a basic question,
Yeah.
but I'm curious, what about career growth? Is being a dispatcher a dead-end job?
Not at all. You can climb that ladder and move into those management roles or even branch out into related fields like supply chain management or operations. There's a lot of room to grow within this career path if you're ambitious.
That's really encouraging. Okay, before we jump into more questions, I have to ask about RoleCatcher's AI. I hear it can be a game changer for interview prep.
It absolutely can. Their CV and resume tailoring feature uses AI to analyze that job description, and it helps you highlight the right skills. It's like having a career coach helping you craft the perfect resume for each specific job.
So you're not just sending out a generic resume, you're creating a targeted document that speaks directly to what they're looking for.
Exactly. And their AI interview feedback is incredible. You practice answering questions, and the AI actually analyzes your delivery content and impact, giving you personalized tips. It's like having a mock interview with an expert.
That's amazing. You're walking into that interview feeling prepared, confident, ready to impress. Okay, back to those questions. Let's say you get hit with this one. How do you manage multiple shipments and prioritize tasks effectively? That sounds like a question for someone with a lot of experience.
It might seem that way, but even if you haven't juggled a ton of shipments before, you can still impress with this answer.
By drawing on other experiences like we talked about earlier.
Yeah. Right. Think back to times you managed competing priorities. Maybe juggling coursework, a part-time job, extracurriculars in school, or even handling multiple responsibilities at a previous job, even if it wasn't directly related to logistics. The key is to break down your process for prioritizing tasks. Do you use a to-do list, a calendar, specific software?
You're showing the interviewer that you have a system you're organized and you can handle that busy workload. What if they ask for specific techniques you use?
Don't be afraid to mention them. Do you prioritize by urgency importance deadlines? The more specific you can be, the better. It just paints a clearer picture of your organizational skills.
Got it. Now let's tackle another question that can be tricky. Can you describe a time when you had to resolve a conflict with a carrier or client? This one feels like it requires some storytelling.
It does. But you don't need some dramatic Hollywood-level conflict to share. Even a minor disagreement can work as an example.
So even if it wasn't a huge blow-up, as long as I had to resolve a difference of opinion, it works.
Exactly. The key here is to focus on your conflict resolution skills. Choose a situation where you have to navigate a difference of opinion. Find a compromise. Or address a challenging situation.
So maybe a time when a delivery was delayed and you had to deal with a frustrated client or a disagreement with a carrier about a route or a schedule?
Exactly. Describe the situation briefly. Then focus on the steps you took to resolve that conflict. Did you listen actively to both sides, empathize with their concerns, offer alternative solutions?
So you're showing off your communication skills, your ability to stay calm under pressure, and your knack for finding those win-win solutions. What about the outcome?
Always end on a positive note. Highlight that successful resolution and how you maintained a positive relationship with the carrier or client. It shows you can handle those tough conversations and still come out on top.
Makes sense. Okay, one last question for this section. How do you ensure that all necessary documentation is completed accurately and on time? This one might sound a little dry, but it's super important, right?
It's crucial. Accurate documentation is the backbone of efficient and compliant freight transport operations.
So how do you make this answer stand out?
Start by highlighting your meticulous nature and your attention to detail. Maybe mention that you double-check everything, have a system for organizing files, or maybe even use specific software to track those deadlines. You can even draw on experiences from school or previous jobs where accuracy was paramount. Did you handle sensitive data? Manage complex spreadsheets?
You're demonstrating that you have a proven track record of accuracy and reliability. Can you give me an example of how to use the STAR method here?
Absolutely. Let's say you were responsible for managing invoices at a previous job. You could talk about a time when you caught a discrepancy that actually saved the company money, highlighting your attention to detail and how you prevented a costly mistake.
That's a great example. It brings the skill to life with a real story.
Exactly. And you can even go a step further by mentioning specific strategies you use to ensure that timely completion. Do you set reminders? Use a calendar? Delegate tasks effectively?
You're painting a picture of someone who's on top of their game, organized, and efficient. All qualities a hiring manager wants to see.
Yeah, it all comes down to just showing them you've got those skills.
Okay, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about staying current in the freight transport world. It seems like things are constantly changing with technology and regulations. How would you answer the question? How do you stay up to date on industry trends and changes?
Well, this is where you show the interviewer that you're a lifelong learner. You're always eager to kind of grow and adapt. You're not someone who just settles for the status quo.
So what are some good things to mention here?
Think about professional development. Do you attend any industry conferences or webinars? Do you read any trade publications like logistics management or transport topics? Maybe you follow relevant blogs or podcasts.
So you're plugged into the industry and aware of new technologies or regulations or best practices. What about professional organizations?
Those are great to mention too. Being a member of a transportation or logistics association shows that you're actively engaged in the field. Plus, it gives you access to valuable resources and networking opportunities.
Yeah, you're painting a picture of someone who's informed, proactive, and committed to staying ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
Now, let's say you're aiming for a more senior dispatcher role, one that involves managing a team. How would you answer? How do you manage and motivate a team of dispatchers?
This is your chance to really showcase those leadership skills
Yeah.
and your ability to inspire and guide others. It's not about just barking orders. It's about creating a positive and productive environment where everyone can thrive.
So you want to talk about your leadership style?
Exactly. Are you collaborative? Do you empower your team members? Do you foster open communication? This kind of sets the stage for a really supportive and respectful workplace. And then you can delve into specific strategies that you use to motivate your team. Do you set clear goals and expectations? Do you provide regular feedback and recognition? Maybe you offer opportunities for professional development to help your team members grow their skills.
It shows that you care about their success, not just checking tasks off a list.
Yeah.
Is it good to mention specific examples of successful team projects or initiatives?
Absolutely. It backs up your claims with that concrete evidence. And remember, even if you haven't formally managed a team before, you can still draw on experiences where you took on a leadership role.
So maybe leading a group project in school, or captaining a sports team, or organizing a volunteer effort. Could all be relevant here.
Precisely. Those experiences can demonstrate your ability to lead, delegate, and motivate others towards a common goal.
Okay, before we wrap up our deep dive into interview prep, let's circle back to RoleCatcher and those AI tools. We talked about the resume tailoring and interview feedback features. But what else can RoleCatcher do to help those aspiring dispatchers?
Well, their Career Compass feature is fantastic for exploring career paths and identifying potential growth opportunities. It's like having a personalized roadmap for your career journey.
So you can see where your current skills might lead you and what you might need to develop to reach your goals. What about researching companies in the job market?
Well, they've got you covered there, too. Their database of employers and industry resources is a goldmine for learning about different companies and staying informed about job trends. It's like having a one-stop shop for all your career needs.
That's incredibly helpful. I've also heard they have a vast library of resources, too.
They do. Their career guides and skill guides provide in-depth information about various professions and the skills that are required to succeed. You can really dive deep into the world of freight transport and get a comprehensive understanding of what it really takes to excel. With RoleCatcher's AI-powered tools and resources, you'll be well-equipped to navigate that job search, ace those interviews, and land your dream dispatcher role.
It's like having a secret weapon in your job search arsenal. Okay, we've covered a lot today. From decoding the role of a dispatcher to tackling those tough interview questions and exploring RoleCatcher's amazing resources. But before we sign off, I want to leave our listeners with a final thought.
I always love your final thoughts. They're so insightful. What do you have for us today?
Well, as a freight transport dispatcher, you're not just moving boxes. You are the linchpin of a complex system that impacts businesses and customers every single day. You're coordinating the movement of goods that people rely on.
That's such an important point. You're playing a vital role in the economy and people's lives.
Exactly. So as you prepare for that interview, remember to own that responsibility. Showcase your passion for logistics, your commitment to efficiency and safety, and your desire to deliver exceptional customer service. Remember, you're not just filling a position, you're becoming a crucial part of a global network that keeps the world moving.
Well said. With the right preparation and the power of RoleCatcher behind you, you've got this. Go out there and knock those interviews out of the park.
Good luck. It seems like with the right prep, showcasing those skills, having those AI tools from RoleCatcher really sets you up for success.
It is a powerful combination. You're not just showing up, you're showing up prepared and ready to shine. Before we wrap up completely, I did want to touch on a couple more questions that you might encounter in your freight transport dispatcher interview.
Okay, let's hear them. I'm ready for anything at this point.
Great. Sometimes interviewers like to throw in a question about your comfort level with technology. After all, this role relies heavily on various software and systems.
Right. So how should someone approach a question like, what experience do you have with transportation management systems or logistics software?
Be honest about your experience. If you've used specific programs, name them and highlight your proficiency. Even if you haven't used any industry-specific software, you can still talk about your comfort level with technology in general.
Okay.
Are you a quick learner when it comes to new programs? Do you have experience with spreadsheets, databases, or other relevant tools?
So you're showcasing your adaptability and your willingness to learn new systems. What if you've used similar software but in a different context?
Definitely mention that. Maybe you used a scheduling program in a previous role. Or you're familiar with GPS tracking from personal use. The key is to connect the dots and show how your existing tech skills could transfer to this role.
Makes sense. Any other tricky questions kind of lurking out there?
One more that often pops up is, how do you handle stress and pressure in a fast-paced environment? The dispatcher role can be pretty demanding, so they want to know you can handle the heat.
Right. Okay. What's the best way to answer this one?
Share your strategies for staying organized and managing your time effectively. Do you prioritize tasks? Break down large projects into smaller steps. Do you have any techniques for staying calm under pressure? Maybe you take a few deep breaths, step away for a moment, or even use a mindfulness app.
So you're showing them that you have healthy coping mechanisms. You're not someone who's going to crack under pressure. Can you give an example using that STAR method here?
Absolutely. Imagine you were working on a tight deadline and a major issue arose that threatened to derail everything. Using that STAR method, you could walk them through how you assess the situation, identified the most critical tasks, and delegated effectively to get everything back on track. It shows that you can think clearly and act decisively, even in those stressful situations.
That's a great example. It highlights those crucial problem-solving skills that are so important in this role.
Yeah.
I feel like we've covered so much valuable information today, from, understanding the dispatcher role to mastering those tricky interview questions, and even leveraging the power of AI with RoleCatcher.
We've really given our listeners a comprehensive toolkit for interview success.
Exactly. And remember, while being prepared is essential, don't forget to just be yourself. Let your enthusiasm for logistics shine through. Showcase your personality and allow the interviewer to see that passionate and capable individual that you are.
Well said. With the right preparation, a confident attitude, and the support of resources like RoleCatcher, you've got this. Go out there and make a great impression.
Best of luck to all our aspiring freight transport dispatchers.